you ever wish your day wasn't dictated by your health? Are you tired of being tired all the time, or is pain holding you back from enjoying your time with your family? Would you like to manage your symptoms holistically, but you just don't know where to begin? I am so excited that you're here. This podcast will help you understand how natural remedies work so you can relieve your symptoms and live a fuller life. My name is Penny. I'm an occupational therapist, past pharmaceutical rep, a mom, and a wife with a strong faith, and for 25 years, I battled through debilitating Crohn's disease. I took all the medicine and did all the surgeries that stole so much time with my family, but never truly healed me. I finally realized if I was going to survive this disease, I needed to open my stubborn eyes to alternative solutions. I researched how perfectly our bodies work with plants and a lifestyle that made my health less of a burden to my family and aligned so beautifully with my faith and my medical training. If you are ready to reclaim your life with holistic options that are easy to implement as a busy mom and provide relief that lasts, this is the podcast for you. Hey there, this is Penny Sampler. Welcome to the Becoming Natural podcast. I am your host and excited to continue our discussion all the way back from episode 22 about foods that you should or shouldn't eat when diagnosed with any kind of bowel issue. Today is episode 30. I can't believe that we're here. Astonishing inflammatory foods that are actually fueling your pain. So I want to stop real quick and just read out one of my reviews. So thank you so much to Mo Resident. If you're from Kansas City, you would know that Mo is Missouri. So Missouri Resident. Penny has a story to tell, one of living on faith. Her wellness journey is nothing short of a miracle, and her faith guides her through. Listening to Penny's story is a reminder of what's important. Aw, that's really sweet. Thank you, Mo Resident, whoever you are. I think you might know me, and I might know you, but I'm not sure who you are. So thank you for that sweet review. So today, if you are new to learning about how to remove inflammation from your body, or if you're not new but you're still learning, you are not alone. We are all still learning. The way that we treat our body is shifting in a beautiful, beautiful way to look at our food, what we ingest, supplements included, anything we breathe, touch, or come in contact with, and find ways to reduce those inflammatory causing products, as well as increase anti-inflammatory producing agents. We know that inflammation is the root of disease, and that inflammation comes from multiple sources on, in, or around our bodies. That means chemicals we touch. Remember, our skin is our largest organ. What we breathe into our lungs, what chemicals are in the fibers of our clothes or our sheets, what we ingest. Ingest is a huge word because you need to not only look at the obvious, food, but drinks, supplements, vitamins, even your medication. So let's talk first about what foods cause inflammation. If you have an inflammatory bowel disease or are looking to reduce inflammation in your body, a great place to begin is with your food. Unfortunately, we don't always get an immediate indication of what food causes a specific symptom when you have an autoimmune or any inflammatory disease. We have to be so mindful of listening to our body or listening to your gut. Nothing more true than that. I am still a huge fan of the food journal that I continue to mention because it really, really helps you isolate what is hurting you. And I will link it and provide it again. It's free. It's in my show notes or at becomingnatural.com. You can find the link in the podcast. So I'm a perfect example that I did not know what I was eating that was harming me because I did not have an instant reaction to whatever food I ate because I had strictures. So strictures, as I've said before, are the narrowing parts of your intestine if you have Crohn's disease. So really what was hurting me was getting more and more strictures because they were caused from chronic inflammation. So basically everything was bothering me, I guess. But what became incredibly painful was when the food would try to push through those strictures. So any inflammatory food was probably causing inflammation in my gut. So I'd like to give you the aerial view of how we're going to attack this because this could take a million podcasts just on this one subject, and we're not going to do that. So we are going to cover inflammatory foods today, but my goal is to keep it as simple as possible while being as thorough as possible. So this week, while we go over the foods that we are known to cause inflammation, so we can first start by taking baby steps to avoid our known causes. Next week, we will address foods that actually prevent or reduce inflammation naturally. And if we need more time to address it, we'll hit a third podcast, or we'll tack it on to the end of next week. We'll go into discussing actionable steps and strategies for making a very smooth transition away that is not complicated or overwhelming. I can't tell you how much I want it to not be overwhelming, because when I first did that candida diet that I have mentioned to y'all too often, but I just think everybody needs to do it. I remember being so discouraged because I felt like I was given just this long list of what I couldn't have. And that's really what I focused on. And it became really depressing. By the second time that I did it, and I realized, the variety and the things that I could have, and I focused on the things that I could eat, then all of a sudden it became way easier to do. So today might be a little bit of a wah-wah, like a downer, hearing all the things you can't have, but hold on for next week, because that'll be all the great things that make us feel good. It's just important to know, because a lot of us don't know exactly what's causing inflammation. It's not commonly talked about, and we've actually been, we kind of have to unlearn some things that we have learned from the past. So because I ask why all the time, I've created a list of food groups that we need to be aware of that cause inflammation, with examples provided. But I also want to explain why or how each of these food groups cause inflammation and what the implications are for your body. I want to be thorough, but I also want to be concise. But I'm just going to warn you ahead of time. There is a lot of information to follow, and I will do my best to keep it slow and simple. But I know that studying nutrition is definitely not my favorite. It gets a little bogged down with big words, words that we're not used to using. They go in one ear and out the other for me a lot. But while I don't love studying the nutrition aspect, I do absolutely love and obsess about studying physiology. So I'm going to attempt to keep it exciting, and we'll insert as many examples and self-deprecating stories, if I can come up with them, that I can, because I've done everything wrong, to keep you entertained. But the information is good stuff. Final comment on that before we get started. Attacking this entire list that I'm about to go over overnight is just too much. So please keep in mind, this is a broad swath, so we can be mindful of what might be causing inflammation in our bodies. If one of the categories really speaks to you and it's something that oh my gosh, that might be causing a problem, then pick one thing to begin to avoid and just start with one thing. Once that becomes a habit and you feel pretty good about it, pick another. I am all about baby steps that turn into solid habits. It took me years. It's still taking me years. I am still a work in progress. That's why this is called becoming natural. We are all becoming. And you know what? If there's something that maybe there's a category that you eat a ton of carbs, bread, pastas, things like that, maybe you just reduce your intake of that category. You don't even have to completely abandon it. Just figure out a way and a schedule to take baby steps to eliminate some of these inflammatory foods to hopefully help you feel better. So, what foods cause inflammation? Number one, as I said, refined carbohydrates and added sugars. So know that vegetables are carbohydrates, but those are not refined. Examples of refined carbohydrates and added sugars are like bread, pastries, Cokes, sugary cereals, all the yummy things in life. So what happens when you consume these refined carbohydrates or high amounts of added sugars, your blood sugar levels will spike rapidly. And this activates our inflammatory pathways. So if your blood sugar is frequently spiking to higher levels, it can promote insulin resistance. And as your body struggles to manage that glucose, it's going to secrete even more insulin, and more inflammatory markers will appear across your body because it's trying to manage all those spikes in sugar. That's a long process of learning all about diabetes and blood glucose and all those things, but that's basically what carbs do. That's why most diabetics do really well when they keep their refined carbs low. So the implications for that over time, these processes can contribute to the development of chronic conditions such as type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and many different kinds of cancer. And as an aside, I know eating perfectly is not ideal, nor is it easy, but every step that you can take in the right direction is hugely beneficial. So don't get discouraged if you eat something that's not good for you and you end up puking or hanging over the toilet. I'm the queen of it. Just get back on the horse and keep trying. It will get easier over time. And ultimately, when you realize perhaps maybe it's bread that's causing you to feel terrible, you'll stop eating it and you won't crave it anymore. And I found that with pizza. I loved pizza. And now I've discovered, you know what? Dadgummit, as much as I love it, I feel like crud after eating pizza. So I really stopped eating it because I know now that it's going to make me feel horrible when I'm done eating it. So I can skip it knowing, God, I don't want to feel that bad, or I've got to function after dinner tonight, all the different things. So I've done the same thing with a lot of things like pasta that I used to eat all the time. But now when I know that something's going to make me feel bloated or nauseous when I eat it, it's easy. I just walk away. I don't do it. And I used to not be that way at all. I used to have a pity party and feel sorry for myself that I couldn't eat what everybody else was eating. And it's hard. It's so hard because our social world revolves around food. I know that that is hard, but you also don't want to feel like poop all the time. And I think that that's when I finally turned my corner, is when I got tired of trying to just be normal and realized I just don't want to feel bad all the time. So I just stopped eating everything that I knew made me feel bad. So all that to say, when your body's in crisis, when there were many times when I had to be perfect, and make no mistake, it wasn't easy, but necessary, and it's totally doable. It's totally doable to be perfect if you need to be, in order to take the pain away and allow your body and your gut to heal and take some of that inflammation out. These days, I've been able to loosen up a little bit because I'm not active with my Crohn's, but think critically about what you're buying. So if you're buying sugar, buy cane sugar. Don't buy anything that has bleach in it, like bleached sugar or bleached flour, if you can avoid it. Why? Why does it need to be bleached? Why do we care if it's perfectly white? I don't, and I certainly don't want to be eating bleach. It's way better to eat pure sugar, cane sugar, than it is to eat fake sugars. So the least refined and tampered with ingredients you can use, the better it is for everyone, honestly, sick or not sick. So say no to bleach, say yes to the good stuff. So second section, trans fats and processed vegetable oils. This is a biggie, but does everybody know what a trans fat is? We kind of use that in lingo, but really, what is a trans fat or trans fatty acids? They are a type of unsaturated fats, and unsaturated fat means a lot of molecular change can go on. So they're not good at all because that's leaving some parts of the molecule open, but they can be found in both natural and artificial forms. Did you hear that? There are natural trans fatty acids. So naturally occurring trans fats are present in small amounts in meat and dairy products from ruminant animals. Ruminant, R-U-M-I-N-A-N-T, like cows, sheep, goats. These fats form naturally when the bacteria in the stomachs of those animals digest grass. So I did a little handy lookup so you understand what a ruminant animal is. It is an herbivore. It's a mammal, and it's known for its unique digestive system, which allows it to efficiently process plant-based food. These animals process through 4 different compartments or chambers in their stomach, and it's a very complex system that enables them to ferment and break down tough plant materials like cellulose with the help of microorganisms. So it's a very specialized digestive system. It not only aids in their survival on a plant-based diet, but also plays a significant role in the ecosystem by enabling the breakdown of their complex plant food. So that is where we can get naturally occurring trans fats that are okay for us in moderation. However, artificial trans fats are created through industrial processes in a factory known as partial hydrogenation. This process adds a hydrogen to liquid vegetable oils, converting them into solid fats to enhance the texture or the flavor or the shelf life of processed foods. That's why things can sit on the shelf for months and months and months at a time. Processed foods being the negative here. Common sources of artificial trans fats include margarine. Always get butter, never get margarine. Vegetable shortening, don't use it, substitute. And various processed foods such as crackers, biscuits, pies, all these things, y'all, as we progress, you can make homemade crackers, you can make homemade biscuits, you can make all sorts of things that are homemade. And we've just lost the art, to be honest. We're too busy and it's too easy to go to the store and buy those things, but they are all loaded with horrible chemicals and obviously trans fats or fake sugars or bad carbs, all the things. So someday we'll get to good recipes, and I actually have some pretty good recipe books I can refer for you. But a good rule of thumb is to always choose natural, untampered with foods. If something is light or fat-free, run as fast as you can. It has to have a fake chemical added back into it to add back flavor or texture from whatever the natural ingredient was that it removed. So if it removed the fat, it's adding in some chemically something to put back into it. If it removed the sugar, it's adding back something like, we've talked about this before, high fructose corn syrup. Because back in the early 80s, we thought fat-free was the way to go. So food companies removed the fat, and replaced with alternatives, but they realized that the fat is actually what provided the good flavor. Like a ribeye steak, that's why it's so good, because the marbling of the fat. So high fructose corn syrup was devised to provide the flavor after the removal of the fats because they discovered that it was sweet. Well, now it's ultimately being blamed for the diabetic crisis that we're in, where everybody has diabetes, because it's in everything you touch. Read your labels. I always choose whole milk, real butter, full fat cottage cheese, full fat yogurt. Natural is always best, and never ever buy light, no fat, fat-free products, because the good fat has been removed and chemicals have been added to make up for the missing flavor or texture provided by the God-made natural fat that our bodies know how to digest. What our bodies don't know how to digest are all the fake chemicals added back in to our natural foods. Ironically, we shoot ourselves in the foot thinking we are making a healthy choice by getting fat-free or low sugar or light, when ultimately it's a choice that's harming our body terribly. Trans fats are believed to contribute to the, quote, bad LDL cholesterol and decreasing the good HDL cholesterol. There's a lot of debate of late regarding cholesterol because we actually need cholesterol for various functions in our body. It tends to get a negative report, but we need it. We need it for the strength of our cell membranes and the structure of our cells. We need it for hormone and vitamin D production. We need it for lots of reasons. But as long as cholesterol is consumed in moderation, you're going to be okay. It's always the key, moderation. Cholesterol for another podcast, but just keep in mind that to eat what is natural and not what is artificial. If God made it, you can eat it. If a factory created it, steer clear. Are we perfect? No, but we can at least know what is good and bad for us so we can try to avoid foods that hurt by causing unnecessary inflammation. That is the goal. So the second part of that was processed vegetable oils. This is a big one. Lots of debates out there too. I'm just going to breeze through this, but certain vegetable oils, particularly when refined or ghee, used at high temperatures, can be detrimental to health due to their high omega-6 fatty acid content. So what happens when they get really, really hot is they oxidize, which is not what you want. So the oils to use sparingly, just quickly a brief list: soybean oil, corn oil, sunflower, canola, cottonseed, grapeseed, safflower, rice bran. A lot of people just say the seed oils. These oils are often found in processed foods and are more prone to oxidation. We're going to discuss that in a minute, which can lead to inflammation and other health issues. Got that? All right. So number 3, processed and red meats. Examples, obviously, we know what red meats are. Examples of processed meats would be hot dogs, bacon, deli meats, sausage. The mechanism of action here is that processed meats often contain advanced glycation end products, initials AGE. How about that? These harmful compounds are formed from proteins or fats when they combine with sugars that are already in the bloodstream through a process called glycation. This reaction is a chemical reaction, and it alters the structure and the function of the proteins and fats. So by changing the structure and the function of those fats, when we use these AGEs, they're harmful compounds, that actually leads to various health issues. So processed meats also contain nitrates. Nitrates are formed during high temperature cooking processes or as preservatives and can induce oxidative stress, about to talk about that, and trigger inflammation in our body. So my little side note here is I want to go through this carefully so I don't make your eyeballs roll, but I also don't want to overwhelm you. But noting that, quote, oxidative stress is bad, which is why in an upcoming episode, we're going to address what antioxidants actually are and how they address oxidative stress. But they do combat oxidative stress caused by things like nitrates. And it's really cool once you understand all these words that people throw around, but they don't really know how they work. Antioxidants are really quite amazing. So these meats are high in saturated fats. We're speaking about deli meats, processed meats, things like that, which may further stimulate the release of inflammatory proteins. So the implications of that would be that chronic consumption of these kind of meats, these processed meats, have been associated with increased inflammatory markers. What a surprise! And heightened risk of diseases like colorectal cancer, heart disease, in addition to all the diseases that inflammatory responses cause. So that, let's see, I can link this up, but the World Health Organization flagged processed meats as potentially carcinogenic, partly due to their inflammatory potential. Red meats. In general, if you enjoy red meat, eat it in moderation. I'm a Texas girl, so I love me some steak, but just remember, number one, high consumption of red meat leads to inflammatory responses. Number two, beef is not lean and it is difficult to break down, especially for people who have gut issues. Ground beef is obviously a better choice than a steak because it's partially broken down already, but it is still not a lean protein. It's still not easy for our gut to break it down like it would something that's more like a simple vegetable. Number three, also keep in mind with red meat, you are what the cow eats. So if that cow eats hormones, antibiotics, or food with pesticide residuals in it, so are you. That goes for any kind of meat, fish, chicken, anything you're eating. So I discovered accidentally that I could eat grass-fed and finished beef because it was so easy for my body to break down when all the cow ate was grass versus a cow that ate feed with additives, byproducts, and grains, and maybe some unknowns in there. I went to a restaurant when my husband and I had, a date, babysitter, everything, white tablecloth, and it's the first time I ever heard about grass-fed beef. And they served 3 ounces of grass-fed beef and 3 ounces of grain-fed beef. And it was amazing because I ate the grass-fed and my husband ate the grain-fed. And it was the first night, anytime we would go on a date without the kids, always white tablecloth where no kids were. And I always wanted a steak. And every single time I would end up at home sick as a dog because I could not digest the steak. It was the first time that I was ever able to go home and I wasn't sick, because it was so easy for my body to break down that grass-fed steak. It was amazing. I was like, oh my gosh, I thought I was going to have to give up steak forever. So it's a wonderful experience. Number 4, dairy products. There's a debate on dairy's impact on inflammation because it depends on the individual person and your tolerance and a lot of different varying things. But lactose intolerance and casein proteins can cause gut inflammation. Casein proteins, that's casein, support muscle growth, but they can also cause an allergic reaction in some people, can cause digestive issues or inflammation. So when the gut acts adversely, it can lead to localized, meaning right there in one spot, inflammation in the digestive tract. But then as you use that over and over, so if you continue to drink milk or eat ice cream or any kind of dairy, it may become systemic over time. And systemic means whole body inflammation. So that leads to more inflammation, more disease, more autoimmune diseases, all the things, all the inflammatory responses. So on this one, I have a note that studies and the Journal of Dairy Science have shown mixed effects, indicating that dairy may be inflammatory for some individuals while being neutral or even anti-inflammatory for others, but it just depends on the tolerance levels. So this is one of those maybes to look out for. You could be one of the people that really can't do dairy or it doesn't bother you at all. I happen to be lucky because I love some good cheese, but I have learned that I really like raw cheese. So if you can go to a Whole Foods or a Trader Joe's and find raw cheese, you don't have to eat as much cheese to get the same great flavor because it's just so rich and good. Number 5, alcohol contributes to immune dysfunction. I'm sorry for all of you who like your wine and alcohol, but I learned early on that it hurts my gut too much, so it's never been a problem for me. The mechanism of action is that excessive alcohol intake is known to increase the gut permeability, often termed leaky gut. I'm sure you've heard that before. That's kind of a new trendy word that we talk about, and it allows bacterial toxins to enter the bloodstream and cause inflammation. So I'm going to explain this a little bit, but you're going to hear gut permeability a lot when you talk about issues in the gut. So I want to spell it out here and explain what that means. But the lining of our intestines is composed of a single layer of cells that are connected by structures called tight junctions. These tight junctions regulate the passage of substances over and through the lining of our stomach. So the junctions can allow selective absorption of nutrients, and it can prevent unwanted substances from passing through. So when those junctions are compromised and things more readily pass through the wall of the intestine. So if you're drinking a bunch of alcohol and those junctions become loose and they're not tight anymore, it can become called leaky gut. This increased permeability allows larger and potentially harmful molecules to cross through the wall of the intestine and into the bloodstream, which then triggers immune responses and inflammation and a whole lot of pain. People who have been diagnosed with leaky gut will tell you it hurts a lot. So these factors contribute not only to liver inflammation, metabolic disturbances, systemic, again, full body inflammation because it's getting into the bloodstream. It's going throughout your entire body, which you're reacting to, and it increases the risk for diseases such as cardiovascular disease and autoimmune disorders. So, number 6, artificial sweeteners, colors, and preservatives contribute to immune dysfunction. I'm fairly certain that this is the hill that I am going to die on, but it's because artificial sweeteners are my trigger and they cause me so much pain. Even still, even though I am inactive Crohn's disease, I cannot tolerate artificial sweeteners. And maybe it's just a learned behavior because I had so many issues with fake sugars. But artificial additives such as certain preservatives, artificial sweeteners, and colors can disrupt normal immune responses and may lead to low-grade chronic inflammation. So as I said, this is the hill I'm going to die on because I think so many people don't completely understand this, but I've mentioned it many times. Fake sugars are my trigger. They are chemicals. They're not sugars. They are completely made up. They're made from a lab, and they were discovered. Actually, the first fake sugar that was discovered was saccharin. You remember saccharin? It was discovered in the late 1800s while someone was working with coal tar derivatives. Yes, coal tar. And they discovered it because when they touched their fingers to their tongue, it was sweet. And they're like, wow, this is sweet. So they started using it as a sweetener. That makes sense. Let's put coal tar in our food. So they've been using it to sweeten things. And it was once thought to reduce caloric content in food. And even, I call it cheap sluts, they compared to the real deal sugar. One by one, each time an artificial sweetener has been discovered, they eventually get demonized. And for just cause. They are not the real thing. It is so much better to have the real sugar, and definitely unbleached sugar, than it is to have a fake sugar in your body because it's a chemical. It's artificial and your body does not know how to process it. It does not know how to break it down. So they say that these artificial sugars will just run around in our body and they actually, ironically, make us fatter. So these are the reason that you don't want an artificial sweetener. I have 6 examples of different reasons that they cause problems. Number 1, they cause an increased appetite and weight gain. So some studies suggest that artificial sweeteners may stimulate the appetite by activating the hypothalamus in the brain, leading to increased hunger and potential weight gain. Awesome. Number 2, altered gut microbiome. Basically, we know the gut microbiome is just basically the balance of the good bacteria and the bad bacteria. So artificial sweeteners can disrupt that balance, which may contribute to metabolic issues such as insulin resistance, glucose intolerance. Studies indicate that some artificial sweeteners, such as sucralose, saccharin, aspartame, can change the actual composition and function of the gut bacteria. So this imbalance is called, big word here, dysbiosis, but I am hearing a lot of people talk about it more, can lead to increased intestinal permeability. We've heard that before, a leaky gut, which allows pathogens and toxins to enter the bloodstream when it goes through the intestinal wall, right? Triggering systemic, whole body inflammation and immune dysfunction. Systemic means whole body. So it's not just where it touches. It can actually affect the entire body once it becomes systemic because it's going through the blood. So it's circulating through your whole body. Number 3, elevated risk of type 2 diabetes. This one just really gets my goat. So the regular consumption of artificial sweetened beverages has been associated with a higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes. And this is why it makes me so angry, because if you have stayed in a hospital before, you cannot exist in a hospital without being shoved sugar-free Jell-O, sugar-free pudding, sugar-free popsicles, sugar-free drinks, Crystal Light, everything is sugar-free. And the reason it's there is for diabetics, because obviously they don't want diabetics eating a lot of sugar. But ironically, all these fake sugars are increasing the risk of diabetes type 2. So we're just in a vicious cycle here. It makes absolutely no sense. Every time I was in the hospital, it was so frustrating because I couldn't have any of that. And I was on a clear liquid diet every single time I was in the hospital. So the only thing I could have was their chicken broth, which was powdered and who knows what was in it. But I could absolutely not have any of that sugar-free Jell-O. It would be sick. I would be puking. I would be puking while in the hospital caused by the food that the hospital gave me. So frustrating. Number 4, cardiovascular concerns of stroke and heart disease. Fake sugars can also have potential cancer risk. The International Agency for Research on Cancer has classified aspartame as possibly carcinogenic to humans. Ironic, aspartame used to be in all of the yogurts that you would find, birthday cake flavored, key lime pie, all the different, chocolate pudding flavored, all the yogurts that weren't really yogurt, they're just called yogurt, but aspartame was in those, and it's now a known carcinogen. So people were unknowingly consuming a whole bunch of aspartame thinking that they were eating healthy. One more thing we have to unlearn from fat-free, sugar-free, all the things is all those yogurts, they're not good for you. They are loaded with sugars and they're loaded with fake sugars. So I stick to Greek yogurt, plain. If you want to add some fruit on top of that, that's the best way to get your yogurt. And that Greek yogurt has tons of probiotics. And the final example I have for fake sugars, how it can affect is neurological effects. So there's kind of an ongoing debate, of course, but there is neurological impacts, they believe, of artificial sweeteners, such as Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, anything that is degenerative, as well as behavioral issues in children. So going back, the final example for artificial sweeteners, they have a direct immunomodulatory effect. So that means that they affect how we modulate our immune system. Emerging research suggests that high doses of certain artificial sweeteners can directly impact immune cell function. Isn't that amazing? We have all these autoimmune diseases that are on the rise. I wonder why, when all these things that we're talking about cause immune cell dysfunction. I don't know about you, but I'm thinking maybe it's these things. So the third part of this was artificial colors or food dyes. So we're going to start with another new word, hapten, H-A-P-T-E-N. Hapten formation and immune activation is caused by artificial colors. Artificial, synthetic, fake, whatever you want to call them, food dyes such as red 40, yellow 5, I don't know all the numbers of all of them. They're all fake, they're all synthetic. There's no need for them. They are small molecules that can act as haptens. Haptens bind to proteins in the body, and when they bind to these proteins, they create these larger, imagine just like a larger ball, that may be recognized in our bodies as a foreign object or a foreign body by the immune system. So it triggers an immune response, which leads to allergic reactions or hypersensitivity in susceptible individuals. So in some cases, these reactions can be skin rashes, respiratory symptoms, or even exacerbation, once again, behavioral issues in children. So fake haptens, we don't want those. Also, artificial colors can cause chronic inflammatory signaling. Beyond immediate allergic reactions, like we just talked about, repeated exposure to certain artificial dyes has been associated with the activation of inflammatory pathways. What a surprise. This could be its own podcast, just discussing all the ins and outs of artificial colors. Just know that the key word is synthetic. We can use naturally occurring dyes from plants with no risk or harm. Artificial, fake, synthetic, there is absolutely no reason for them. And it just made me think about rugs, beautiful rugs that we get. Like I have some beautiful, woven rugs that are made from plant dyes. So you can use plants to dye our thread, but why can't we use plants to dye our food? Well, guess what? We can. And we've all heard this recently, I'm sure, that there are other countries that don't allow these certain dyes at such levels as we do in the United States. And so their dyed foods are not as bright and colorful as ours are because they don't allow those. I don't care what color my food is. It's going in my stomach and I'm not going to see it. So there's no reason to worry. Just like there's no reason to worry about if your sugar is bleached white. We can use naturally occurring dyes from plants with no risk to our body. And the third part of this was preservatives. So preservatives interfere with your gut barrier function. You know where this is going. So preservatives such as nitrates and sulfites are added to foods to prevent spoilage and extend shelf life, meaning things will last forever because of these preservatives. Some of these compounds can interfere with the integrity of the gut lining by disrupting what? tight junctions between the cells. Hey, there it is, gut permeability and leaky gut. Third time is a charm. So this disruption may lead to increased intestinal permeability, allowing bacteria to leak into the circulation of the blood that will potentially trigger the immune system, promoting chronic inflammation and potentially leading to immune dysfunction over time. I hope now that we have discussed gut permeability and leaky gut 3 times, you will never forget about tight junctions. I feel like we need to be singing conjunction junction. What's your function? But we do not want those tight junctions to go away. And obviously, all these synthetic and fake things are causing I don't know if it's a relaxing or a separation of these tight junctions that allow toxins into our bloodstream that then circulate throughout our entire body that will then cause not localized, but systemic or whole body reactions. So the final problem that we have with these fake colors are direct cytotoxic. Cyto means cell, toxic means death, and pro-inflammatory effects. So certain preservatives can have direct cytotoxic effects on immune cells. So once again, the term cytotoxic refers to substances or processes that are toxic to the cells, meaning they can damage or kill living cells or promote oxidative stress, which we've talked about. We want antioxidants to balance that out, and we'll talk about that in the future. But both oxidative stress and the cytotoxic cells both can impair the function of your immune system. For example, sulfites have been associated with triggering asthma and other allergic reactions in sensitive individuals. So this chronic low-level toxicity, so that's why it doesn't affect everybody. And someone may say, oh, I'm fine with that. There's no problem. Well, everybody has a different threshold, and you have different things that are coming at your body, and your body is fighting. Everybody has a variety of how much they're fighting of different things at a time, but chronically low-level toxicity can cumulatively, over time, weaken the immune system and weaken the immune response. Ding, ding, ding. Once again, hello. Why we have such an increase in autoimmune diseases. So isn't it amazing to see these things and know all these things negatively affect our immune system? So if we can remove these things from our diet, maybe we won't be negatively affecting our immune system. We had no idea all these things were going on and that all these things were affecting us so negatively. This is why if you can go through this list and start reducing your intake of things that cause inflammation, our inflammatory reaction is what our autoimmune diseases are. So hopefully you can reduce. And this is why many people in the homeopathic world believe that you can reduce or reverse autoimmune disease simply by controlling your diet. And it's not just controlling your diet, it's called removing toxic chemicals from our body. We're not going to ingest toxic things, fake things, synthetic things that cause problems in our body. Just eat natural. So, summary. Artificial sweeteners, colors, and preservatives can contribute to immune dysfunction through multiple wild and crazy interconnected processes. They alter the gut microbiome, which is the balance of good and bad bacteria, leading to dysbiosis and a compromised gut barrier. What do we call that? Gut permeability or leaky gut. They can directly modify immune cell function, leading to suppressed immune responses. They form hapten bonds that are identified or detected in our body as foreign objects, foreign bodies, and they can provoke an allergic and hypersensitive immune reaction trying to get that foreign body out of the body. They can induce oxidative stress and cytotoxicity, toxic cells that lead to the death of a cell, further impairing our immune function. So, overall, while most regulatory agencies deem these additives safe at current consumption levels, emerging research is suggesting that in susceptible individuals or under higher exposure, they might contribute to chronic inflammation and immune dysregulation. So think about it this way. If you're drinking a Diet Coke with a deli meat sandwich loaded with nitrates and a box of candy that has red dye 40 in it on the daily or pretty frequently, that's high exposure. And I'm going to say we have a liver for a reason. Our liver is there to detoxify our body. The problem is that we are just overwhelming our livers. They were created to remove those toxins, but I can't remember where the statistic was, but we are adding hundreds of new toxins into our environment that our bodies are exposed to every year. So toxins that not only come from food, but everything that is on, in, and around our body. So if you have a chronic illness, these are the places to start looking first. No person is the same. No threshold is the same. Everyone has a different trigger. So our liver functions and it detoxifies these things so we don't die. We can't live without a liver, but we are overwhelming our liver with so many different toxins coming from every angle. So it's just smart to start thinking about all the different things that we're putting on and around our body. And we can start with the food that we eat, which is a really great place to start. So y'all, this was a lot of information, a lot of words. I don't know if it was just for me or if you felt it too, but there are a lot of words in there that are not in our daily vocabularies. Dysbiosis and dysfunction and permeability and haptens and all the different things. But I will be the first to admit that when I was in college and I had to take nutrition, it made my eyeballs roll. I have zero interest in the details of nutrition, to be honest, but I always wanted to skip to the anatomy and the physiology and how does it all work. So if this was heavy listening or a challenge to hang with, I totally get it. I like to know the why. So if you tell me fake sugars are bad for me, I want to know exactly why they are bad for me and what they do to my body to make them bad. And then I know there's some people who want to know all the details like me. And then there's people like my mom who would say, I don't want to know any of it. Don't tell me any details. Just tell me what to do. Tell me what to eat. I get you too, because there's days I'm like that as well. So here's a final tight summary of what we discussed today. Number 1, avoid refined carbohydrates and added sugars. Basically, anything in a box. Best rule of thumb is to eat what is found in nature. Number 2, avoid trans fats and processed vegetable oils. Number 3, processed meats, avoid them. And consuming high amounts of red meats. Eat in moderation. Number 4, dairy products, variable by person. Give it a shot. If you think that there's a trigger, stay away from it. Number 5, alcohol consumption. If it hurts you, stay away from it. Number 6, my hill, artificial sweeteners, colors, preservatives. We don't need any of them. They're all artificial. They're all fake. They're all synthetic. We can use regular sugar. We can use, vegetables and fruits as colors, and we can eat more fresh food instead of things that are loaded with preservatives. So if you're trying to figure out what you can or can't eat right now, what's affecting you the most right now, please don't get overwhelmed. But think first, if it is naturally occurring in nature or if it's loaded with chemicals, it's bad for you. For instance, a baked potato is much healthier than a potato chip. It's been fried in grease and covered in chemical flavorings. We simply have to learn to change the way that we look at our food. We are eating to live, not living to eat. That was a very hard point for me to learn. There is an adage that says, shop around the edges of the grocery store versus in the middle of the store, meaning eat the fresh food, eat the fruits, eat the veggies that line the walls, but skip the boxed and preservative heavy laden foods that last for months that are located in the middle of the store. So there's lots to noodle here. Listen, scribble down some takeaways, and come back next week to find out what we can do to be sure to eat to keep that inflammation at bay. So all the things that we can eat in response to these inflammatory foods, once we learn how to avoid them, we can learn what's good for us and what to eat, because many times the good things, the anti-inflammatories, can actually negate the inflammatory foods, which really help out a lot. It's a matter of balance. So I can't wait to come back. I hope it wasn't too much for you, and I hope you have a fabulous week. Take care. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you've enjoyed today's episode, hit that follow button, leave a 5-star review if you're so willing, and help spread the message of Becoming Natural by sharing it with a friend. Check out the resources in the show notes and join the email list to stay on top of all the latest and greatest happenings at Becoming Natural as we roll out exciting new things while we grow. Until next time, take those baby steps to a more natural life and always give yourself grace. Progress, not perfection, is the goal. See you next week.